There is no.
Oh, I just did that.
But we'll go back to this. What's up, everybody? Derek and Keenan coming back at you with Test the Algorithm. I got a video today that is from 1965. This guy's name is Paul Harvey. You might have saw this on the last Joe Rogan experience with what's that guy's name, Sheridan or whatever, the guy that wrote Yellowstone and all
Taylor.
those movies, Taylor Sheridan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's the first time I've ever seen a podcast actually put this on there and be like, hey, listen to this, check this out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is Paul Harvey, and Paul Harvey wrote this and then, said it in 1965.
Just a couple of years, after you were born.
I think I was born before that, dude. I'm an old man. I'm sorry. 65. 1965, Johnson was president.
Mm-hmm.
Malcolm X was assassinated.
Yeah.
We were ramping up the Vietnam War. I think 65 is when we first put ground troops into Vietnam. So that's how long ago this guy wrote this. And this is kind of a prediction, like a Nostradamus-y type thing. Have you ever heard this, Paul Harvey?
It's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been a while. So it'll be a nice little refresher.
Right.
Absolutely.
This one really struck a nerve with me as far as the date it was written. I've probably listened to this 100 times. And everybody, please listen to this. And in the beginning, the speech is called "If I Were the Devil." And a little disclaimer: if you are not a religious person, that's okay. Instead of the devil, put in a tyrannical government or bad vibes or whatever you need to put in there to make it sound okay to you. If I were a tyrannical government, I would. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to throw that out there because I don't want someone to start listening to be like, oh, this is just someone preaching to me. I'm not here to preach to you. I just want you to listen to this. This one's very important. Show your children, show your friends. This one should be really, really good. So let's start it out.
Absolutely.
If I were the devil, if I were the devil, if I were the prince of darkness, I'd want to engulf the whole world in darkness. And I'd have a third of its real estate and 4/5 of its population, but I wouldn't be happy until I had seized the ripest apple on the tree. Thee. So I'd set about, however necessary, to take over the United States. I'd subvert the churches first. I'd begin with a campaign of whispers. With the wisdom of a serpent, I would whisper to you as I whispered to Eve, do as you please. To the young, I would whisper that the Bible is a myth. I would convince them that man created God instead of the other way around. I would confide that what's bad is good and what's good is square. And the old I would teach to pray after me, Our Father, which art in Washington.
1965.
1965. That's unreal. I mean, when you think about back in the day, this is Vietnam. This is that Johnson. This is Johnson. This is man. Our Father who art in Washington.
Right.
What do it makes me think, like, if you're that person that's on welfare and food stamps and everything else, all kinds of government assistance, right? Who's your daddy?
Yeah, they are.
Washington is.
Yeah.
All churches file a 501c3. During COVID, there was not one church when daddy government said, hey, you can't go to church no more. Not one of them went to church. You know why? Because it's a 501c3. They even answer to daddy government. So that part really got me right there. You know what I mean? Our Father who art in Washington. All churches, 501c3s. All nonprofits, 501c3s. Everybody that files that thing, tax exempt status, they have to answer to the government. You know what I mean? So
they do.
That really kind of, ooh, man.
Yeah.
1965 too.
Yeah. I do think a lot of churches, especially COVID, really opened up a lot of eyes with the government and what they were doing. I think, a few months in, churches in particular are like, you know what, we're not going to listen anymore. And they started, doing, the drive-through service, outdoor service. And then obviously we didn't know what COVID was and all the variants. Right. And so, I mean, arguably, at least with our age group and younger, the scariest portion of our life I mean, we didn't know what it was, and so we could only rely on what the government, unfortunately, they were saying what it was
Right.
in all the research. So yeah, I mean, COVID really messed with a lot of people
Oh yeah, but
and
in the
churches, and
beginning,
yeah,
but in the beginning they shut
they
down.
did
You know what I
absolutely.
mean? And in my opinion, that should never happen. You know what I mean? In my opinion, if a church is a church and the government's the government,
Hmm.
right? Separation of church and state.
Hmm.
Now, when the government tells churches, "Hey, this is happening. You can't have church no more," and the church says yes,
Sure.
that's a coinky
I
dink to me. I don't like that at all.
very much so. Now, I don't think if the government would ever say, "Hey, we're going to shut down again," I don't think that I would say less than 10% of churches would ever listen again. And I truly believe that even if the government would strip away the nonprofit status, I do think that they would fully be like, you know what, we've done this once before, we're not going to do it again.
I think they played their card really strong that first go around. So I don't know if a lot of people will ever listen to it again. I really don't know. And you know what? I understand a lot of people were scared when this all happened. You
Sure.
know what I mean? They're like, oh, an outbreak and whatnot.
Hmm.
This isn't like tooting my own horn, like I can get people on the phone or whatever, but I was never scared, never bugged me. Wasn't scared of getting it, wasn't scared of dying from it. What I got kills that. What I got kills COVID. So, you know what I mean? I wasn't scared of it at all. That's my line I always use. What I got kills that. So I wasn't worried about it. And a lot of people were. So I don't know. Our father who art in Washington, that one really, that's a good one. I hope you guys like throw that one, waller that one around. You know what I mean? That's, I don't like that.
Yeah.
You want to get it again?
Yeah, we'll do the next one here.
And then I'd get organized. I'd educate authors in how to make lurid literature exciting so that anything else would appear dull and uninteresting. I'd threaten TV with dirtier movies and vice versa. I'd peddle narcotics to whom I could. I'd sell alcohol to ladies and gentlemen of distinction. I'd tranquilize the rest with pills. If I were the devil, I'd soon have families at war with themselves, churches at war with themselves, and nations at war with themselves, until each in its turn was consumed. And with promises of higher ratings, I'd have mesmerizing media fanning the flames. If I were the devil, I would encourage schools to refine young intellects, but neglect to discipline emotions. Just let those run wild. Until before you knew it, you'd have to have drug-sniffing dogs and metal detectors at every schoolhouse door.
So one thing that, so I have, I'm educated. So I have a couple of degrees, and I'll never forget my freshman year of college. Walk into it was marketing 101, business 101, whatever it was, and our professor at the time, she was in her 60s or early 70s, whatever it was, and she goes, "Sell me this," and it was just the widget, nothing there. Just people like, "Oh, you got to have a good price. You got to be made in America. You got to have good advertising." And she goes, "Nope, you're all wrong." And we're sitting there going, "Well, what then?" She goes, "Sex sells." And she goes, "You have a big breasted woman or a good looking guy with a six pack." And so that's exactly what he's talking about
Mm-hmm.
here. Absolutely. I mean, you're going to get more ratings.
Mm-hmm.
And that's unfortunately, sex does sell.
Right.
And I hate that. And truly, I do hate that. But that's just the world that we live in.
Right. He yeah, he even brought up there like the what would you call it, antidepressant, like how many of our population is on antidepressants. He
Yeah.
talked about that.
Yeah.
Drug sniffing
Drug sniffing
dogs in
dogs.
every school.
Yeah.
Instead of teaching intellect, cater to emotions. What does that sound like,
Mhm.
guys? What does that sound like? You know,
Mhm.
1965.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'd tranquilize the rest with pills. It's just like, come on.
Scary, right? Like, I mean, we're living in it, so I mean, it is what it
Yeah.
is. But
Yeah.
this dude saying this in '65, it's like, what hourglass was he looking through? You know what I mean? It's
Hmm.
like, did he say it? Therefore, it is. You know what I mean?
Well,
It's like, what the heck is going on here, man? Could you have said like goodness and we're all going to be united, whatnot? You know what I mean?
wouldn't that have been nice?
It would
Just
have been nice,
1965. You know what? We'd have the DeLorean.
right? Go
We'll
back in
go back in
time.
time.
We'll make our own video. Maybe then it'll happen.
That's
Yeah, I didn't. that one, like I said, that one gets me too, man. That section right there gets me too.
Hmm.
He hit like 6 points right there that are there
Yeah,
in our
it's
society. You know what I mean?
daily.
How many? I would guess it's over 60, 70
Hmm.
percent of our population in America is on some kind of mind altering
Oh, I'm
drug.
sure. And again, I know we talked about COVID, but COVID was another big portion. I mean, people were just getting depressed because they couldn't see their friends and their family and death, and they didn't know what was going to happen with their
Right.
job. And I mean, and so I mean, I truly see that that's exactly why people need to be on, the mind altering medication is to help with that. And sure, I mean, some people need it. I mean, and they truly need it. They unfortunately had issues happen to them in the past, and they need something. But yeah, I mean, we're very reliant on medication
I am. I would
to help your
say
mind.
people need stuff, right? Like you need
Yeah, for sure,
antibiotics when you're
sure.
sick or got an infection, right?
Hmm.
Like I understand that.
Yeah,
What I don't understand is that yes, I'll give you that. I'll give you like I'll agree with, you know, some people need some kind of antidepressant or something,
hmm,
right? Because of whatever happened to them or whatnot.
right.
I don't think, on the other hand, though, that they should be on it for the rest of their lives. They should be on it for a certain amount of time, kind of
Sure.
like an antibiotic. But if you have a doctor telling you, hey, you're depressed,
Well,
instead of getting down to the root of the problem, because there's always a root of a problem, there
sure.
could be a problem unless there was a cause and effect,
Hmm.
right? So I can see for a certain amount of time, but you should like work with, I don't know, therapists or your family or whoever to try to get off it in a certain amount of time. If someone told me, Derek, you're going to have to be on this pill for the rest of your life, it's not going to happen. It will not happen. I wouldn't let it happen. I would stop taking it. I would take it as long as I need,
Hmm.
and then I would stop.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I
Hmm.
really don't.
I have a few friends who are MDs and nurse practitioners and PAs, and from what they see is a lot of doctors just go, you know what, I don't want to deal with it, and we're going to prescribe you this medication. And then if they ever want to try to get off of it, I mean, it's you're trying to get off a crack essentially,
Right.
and your body can't handle it.
Right.
And doctors today, and anybody who can write a prescription, they're so quick just to write it and just be done. Here's your prescription. Take it, get it filled. Have a good rest of your life.
Here's where I come at it, dude. You have to trust the pharmaceutical companies and all their lobbyists and all the doctors. You have to trust them like you've never trusted anything before to put this down your throat. And where I go is the Sackler family. Under no sir, and that's just one. Look how many people unalived because of opiates,
Sure,
because of Oxycontin and all that, right?
sure.
And that's a Sackler family, one of the most crooked, corrupt families ever to live, right? And look what they did. And they were in cahoots with, there's documentaries on Netflix about it. And if you watch it, it'll blow your mind. So, in my opinion, you have to really trust the pharmaceutical companies, the lobbyists, the
Hmm.
doctors themselves to be like, yes, I trust you. I'll take this pill for the rest of my life to make me normal in society.
Hmm.
No, 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 no. I do not trust them. And I really don't like that this is a recurring theme when we talk because I just don't trust shit. You know what I mean? But I really don't trust them.
Hmm.
And I could state my reasons or whatever. But yeah, you really have to put a lot of faith into the pharmaceutical companies
For sure.
to trust what they're shoving down your throat,
Hmm.
you know? So,
Now there are a lot of good medicines out there,
yeah,
and
penicillin.
sure, I mean, I think with a lot of the medicines out there, I think they do more harm than good. But there are several creations out there who do way more harm than good. So it's completely the polar opposite.
Read the
And
side effects of any medicine you're ever
right,
going to take.
right, it's this and this and this and this and this. You know what? I'll have
All I had was a headache.
yeah, I'll have a runny nose. It's fine.
Right.
It's okay. It's okay.
I don't need
Yeah.
anal fissures and everything, dude. And
Right. Yeah.
yeah, it's so that's where I kind of go with that as far as that's the part that really got me in there too, because the first
Hmm.
thing that pops in my mind when he's like, I'll have people taking all these pills and on something, dude, that's depression in our society. We live in the greatest country in the world. We live in the best time in the history recorded of the world. It's the best. I mean, you might have a lot of rioting and dissension and
Sure.
whatnot. That's all normal. You know, it's hard to find two people that think exactly the same. But it is the best time. We're living the longest. Look at the amount of resources we have. You can go to the grocery store and buy 10 different kinds of pasta or anything, right? So it's the best time to live. Your kid isn't dying from an infection in his leg
Sure.
like in the 20s,
Sure.
you know? So it's
Yeah.
the best time to live in, you know? But
Definitely.
so I don't understand why so many people are depressed. Do you understand why people are depressed? I really
No.
don't have time. That's not me saying that I haven't been down on myself before. That's
Sure.
not saying
I
that
think we
life
all
hasn't
have.
like punched me down before.
Boy,
But
can I
I know,
I can
right?
talk to you about that.
That'll be for another video,
That'll be for another one in the future.
right?
But
When he can legally say it.
I mean, you're not wrong on that one. But yeah, I mean, we've all been down. We all have our ups and downs. But yeah, I think nobody can live a perfect life
Right,
and be all up and all the time.
right.
It's not possible. You could have all the money in the world, and you could have the best family. You could have the best everything, and from time to time, you're still going to be down.
Yeah. Metal detectors and drug sniffing dogs at every school. Now I know that I'm an old man, right? But even when old, right? So even when I went to school,
But
I remember the drug sniffing dogs.
Yeah.
I remember them making you leave the class, leave your backpacks in
Correct.
there, bringing the cop with the dog in,
Exactly.
sniff your backpacks. You
Yep.
know what I mean, and make sure there weren't drugs or
Yep.
guns or whatever. You know
Yep.
what I mean? And this is 1965.
Yeah. Officer Nail. Yeah, that he was our dare officer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, through the town that I lived in. He just recently retired, and then he came back on as a reserve officer,
Oh, really?
which was kind of cool.
Like a retired
But
annuitant, kind of. Yeah.
yeah, but yeah. So he was our dare officer, and I mean he would always come in and talk to us about drugs and don't do it and all that stuff. Not Smokey the Bear, but yeah, I think it was Smokey the Bear, wasn't it?
Smokey the Bear was the Stop Forest Fires.
But we had a bear.
Hugs Not Drugs.
Yeah,
That's the one. Hugs Not Drugs.
You.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he would come in with the dog and just use it as the example and teaching tool. But so I mean, shoot, I'm in my upper 30s and I still remember him from elementary school. So
some
that
of those
guy
videos were crazy though. They came in.
Yeah.
Our dare officer came in and showed us like a VHS videotape with their little spiel, and it was like the Reefer Mania video that was filmed in like the 40s or 50s or whatever. Which is garbage. That video is garbage. But I remember it showed in the dare thing we did. It showed like people on LSD acid having like bad trips, and he's like, this one kid thought his legs turned into steaks, and he was like cutting at his legs and whatnot. And everybody, we're like, I forget what, 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, something, and everybody's like, you know what I mean? So, but there was a couple videos that were whack. You know what I mean? That's another thing. That's another false narrative. Is that Reefer Madness video that came out in the 50s, black and white? That was garbage, dude. That was propaganda, is what that was. It really was. And reefer is legal in however many states now. You know what I mean? Isn't that weird that it could be legal state but not federal? I thought federal was the big boys on the block.
I thought so.
But state overrides federal? When did that happen?
Well, we are in California, so
unfortunately, right?
It seems like the extreme liberal states can do whatever they want,
right?
And we'll have another video with Governor Newsom and the Senate Bill 2 here in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, I mean the liberal states, they think they can do whatever they want,
right?
And completely ignore the federal government,
which is weird, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because you'd much rather go to a state prison than a federal prison, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know.
It's golf course.
Right. Right. Yeah. Let's go play soccer.
Right. Absolutely. Oh,
is like what's the military prison? What's that one called? You know what I'm talking about, though. The military guys that get in trouble.
I don't.
Isn't that federal? That's federal, right?
I would assume that's federal.
Or is there a difference between military prison and federal prison? I'm not sure.
Leavenworth. Yeah, you're right.
Is Leavenworth federal or is it considered military? Which would be federal, right?
The only maximum security prison in the United States with the Department of Defense. So I would say Leavenworth should just be a military prison.
Okay.
In Kansas.
Imagine being in that prison with all these trained. They're trained to off you if they want. You know what I
Right.
mean? Oh
Yeah.
man, bunch of
I,
Marines and
I assume they have more than just military people, but again, I have no idea.
I don't either.
So
And I ain't ever going, so I'm not gonna test it out for you. No.
no, I like my freedoms too much.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
God bless America.
I like doing some content and filming some content.
Right. Here, hammer out the next one.
Within a decade, I'd have prisons overflowing. I'd have judges promoting pornography. Soon I could evict God from the courthouse, then from the schoolhouse, and then from the houses of Congress. And in his own churches, I would substitute psychology for religion and deify science. I would lure priests and pastors into misusing boys and girls and church money. If I were the devil, I'd make the symbol of Easter an egg and the symbol of Christmas a bottle. If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who wanted until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious. And what'll you bet? I couldn't get whole states to promote gambling as the way to get rich. I would caution against extremes in hard work, in patriotism, in moral conduct. I would convince the young that marriage is old-fashioned, that swinging is more fun, that what you see on TV is the way to be.
With the last clip, I would caution against extremes in hard work, in patriotism, and moral conduct.
Makes sense, right? Wow, did he like hit the nail on the head right there?
Right on the head. And it's just like, man, how can you live in a country, any country, not just the United States, but any country, and say, you know what? I hate that country. I hate the country that I live in. And you know what? If you don't like it, move. Oh, we don't want you. At least in the United States. If you say that you hate the United States in particular, just because that's where we live, just leave.
And
Leave. Go somewhere
the good
else.
thing about the United States though is you have 50 other states to choose from and they're all a little different. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So if you're in the United States and you're like, let's say you're like, I hate living in Oregon, right? Well, you can move to Nevada, you can move to Tennessee, you can move a number of places that have different policies, different politics, and everything else.
Definitely.
So you can get a whole culture change just moving somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to do that in some of these other countries because
For sure.
they're not as independent. They don't have the First Amendment. They don't have the Second Amendment.
No.
You know what I mean?
So in some of the countries in the Middle East, if you say that you don't like a country, you're done.
Right.
They'll just take care of you then.
Yeah, they'll consider it treason, basically.
Yeah. If you don't like the dictator, they'll just kill you.
Right.
Yeah.
That's like, this reminds me of the good old days. You know, if you were to switch that around, it's like we would promote hard work, we'd promote patriotism, we'd promote moral conduct, but he's literally saying the opposite.
You know what? I just want to stay at home and get paid.
That's lazy, huh?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and so the generation below us, I think, is that's their mindset, is they want to get as much money as possible for doing as little work as possible.
Right. You know, and it sounds gloom and doom what this guy's saying, but I'm going to tell you something, like where it says, you know, we would say that patriotism's bad and whatnot. You know, we caution against it. You know, I do have hope. You know why I have hope? Because I lived through 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't there. I lived in the United States during 9/11. I remember exactly where I was when my mom like woke me up because I heard her go, "Oh my gosh," because she was watching the news in the morning. My stepdad called her from work. He was already there. You know, he's like, "Are you watching the TV?" I remember exactly where I was. And I remember shortly after 9/11, it didn't matter if you were a Democrat, a Republican, a libertarian, anything. The whole world came together. Or not the whole world. We had a lot of other people. Screw the whole world. I said it wrong. The United States came together.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of patriotism there. We were actually, every car, it seemed like, had an American flag on the back. So I do have hope. I know, like, if you want to talk about epigenetics, I know it's there still in us, no matter how crazy the world gets. I know inside of every person in America, there is patriotism there. It's just going to take the right thing to flip it back on. You know what I mean? Because I did see it. And I imagine you saw it too. I'm not too much older than you, but I imagine you saw it too. You know what I mean?
I was in high school taking my state standard testing.
Okay.
And whenever, because it was Eastern Standard Time, so we were awake.
Right.
You know, the other time zones, a lot of them were still asleep. whenever it happened. Anyways, if you depending on whenever you got up during the day.
No, I was
But-
laying in bed and my mom was getting ready for work
Sure.
super early in the morning, and my stepdad was already at work.
Yeah.
Working third shift. You know.
And so we obviously watched that and all of that, and I'll never forget. So I was a huge sports guy.
Right.
I'm still a sports guy. And so after everything settled, the first game was between the New York Yankees and the Boston Red Sox. Whenever President Bush got out there, and there have been documentaries after the fact that he threw the best first pitch that any president has ever thrown, right down the middle, and I got goosebumps just talking about it. And nobody cared if you were a Yankees fan or a Red Sox fan. Arguably, they hate each other. I mean, in sports, they just hate each other.
Rivals.
Liberals and Democrats, or liberals are Democrats, but versus Republicans and conservatives, and nobody cared. Nobody cared. We were actually united.
We had a common enemy.
Absolutely.
See, but see, so I do have hope, right? Because I remember that. But here's what kind of smothers it all is that, yes, we were all together. We were all like as one, you know what I mean? But then what does the government do? It's Iraq. Weapons of mass destruction. All proven a big fat lie. Should have never been in Iraq. We Americans committed a mass genocide in Iraq for no reason. So 9/11 happens, we're all together. And then the community, Americans start going, why are we going to Iraq? And then right after that, it was actually Afghanistan.
Right.
You know what I mean? So they never let a catastrophe go to waste or whatever. You know what I mean? So we were together, but then the government did its shenanigans and made people like me go, oh, so you're just garbage again. You know what I mean? You lying rats.
I mean, not just over in the Middle East that countless innocent people were killed, but I mean, our military people.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and not to mention, obviously the almost 3,000 people in the terrorism attacks on American soil. It was like 2,993, I think, something like that. So a little less than 3,000, but the thousands and thousands of lives that were lost in the military, and
for no reason, for a lie, for a false pretense, even getting us in there. They took our good graces, America, and they shipped it off to garbage. They didn't do the right thing. So war, dude, it's money, big money.
Yeah, absolutely is.
Yeah, but I do hold that hope there. You know what I mean? Can't be a pessimist all day long. You'll hate yourself. You know what I mean? So I did see patriotism, but it is few and far between. It seems like this days. And I'm kind of scared. Do we need another thing like that to happen to make everybody like each other? Because I don't like that part of the equation either.
I know.
Project Bluebeam.
Right. I obviously hope not.
Yeah,
but
me too.
I just wish that we could have our differences and just get along.
Right.
Wouldn't that be nice? That's a good thought. Can't we all just get along?
Rodney King, dude.
Yeah.
Can we all just get along?
I dislike people sometimes.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the next clip.
And thus I could undress you in public, and I could lure you into bed with diseases for which there is no cure. In other words, if I were the devil, I'd just keep right on doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
That is a very good speech right there.
Absolutely.
That is a very good speech. That guy is a very good orator, and he wrote it himself. So he's not, he's really good at doing that. He has another one that it's God created a farmer or something. That one's pretty good too. He has one that talks about like I forget what it's called, but it's something about the news media, like the evil news media or something. But it's about the news companies back in the day. You know what I mean? How they're pumping out propaganda and it's all negative. And that was written in the 60s too. So I like Paul Harvey. I think he hit the nail on the head.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Well, everybody, we hope you liked it. Watch this. Tell us what you think. Show it to your friends. We appreciate you. We're having a good time, and I guess we'll see you on the next one.
Yeah, this was video 5, and stay tuned for 6 and beyond.
6 and beyond.
Thanks,
Thanks, guys.
Take care.